The first thing my mother said when I told her I was broke wasn't, "Are you okay?" It was, "But what about the Cancun deposit?" I'm Maya. I'm 34 years old. And for 12 years, I was my family's ATM, their emergency fund, their backup plan, their silent safety net. And the day I finally said I had nothing left, not one person asked if I was all right. Let me paint you a picture of what my life looked like before all of this. I grew up in a house where being the oldest meant being the responsible one. My parents immigrated from Mexico when I was 3. My dad worked construction, my mom worked at a dry cleaner. They gave us what they could, and honestly, I don't resent any of that. They worked hard. But somewhere along the way, Maya will handle it became the family's answer to everything. I got a scholarship to state college. I graduated, got a decent job in accounting, and by 22, I was already sending money home. 100 here, 250 there. It felt good at first. It felt like I was giving back something. By the time I was 25, I was covering my youngest brother Tomas's car insurance because he kept letting it lapse. At 27, I quietly paid 3 months of my parents' rent when my dad got hurt at work. At 30, I co-signed on my sister Renata's student loan because her credit wasn't good enough, even though my gut told me not to. None of it was ever said out loud as a debt. It was just expected, and I let it be expected. That's on me. I know that now. If you've ever been the responsible one in your family, the one everyone calls, the one who always figures it out, you already know where this is going. But I promise you, what happens at the end of this story is something I still can't fully explain. So stay with me, because you need to understand exactly what I walked away from, and exactly what it cost me to do it. Things started shifting slowly. That's the thing about this kind of family dynamic. It doesn't announce itself, it just gradually becomes the air you breathe. When I was 31, I got a promotion. My salary went up by about $14,000 a year. I told my mom over the phone, excited, thinking she'd just be happy for me. She was quiet for a second, then said, "Oh good, because Tomas really needs new tires." I laughed. I actually laughed. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. By that point, Tomas was 27 and hadn't held a job longer than 4 months in his life. My sister Renata had finished her degree on my co-signed loan and was living with her boyfriend, barely making her payments. My mom had started sending me lists. Actual lists. Texted to me like grocery lists. Electric bill due Friday. Tomas needs $200. Renata said the loan payment is coming up. I had my own rent, my own car, my own student loans I was still paying off, my own health insurance, and I was managing all of it while also managing theirs. I had no savings account worth speaking of. I had no emergency fund. I had nothing cushioning me. I had no idea how close to the edge I was. And then the Cancun trip came up. My mom had this idea, a big family vacation. Her 60th birthday was coming up, and she wanted all of us together in Mexico. She started planning it the previous December. Renata was in charge of the resort research. Tomas was supposed to book the flights. Nobody ever asked who was paying. They didn't have to ask. By February, my mom mentioned casually that she'd found a resort that needed a deposit. Just $2,000 to hold it, she said. We can split it. Split it meant me. I said yes. Because I always said yes. I put $2,000 on my credit card that I was already carrying a balance on. I want you to think about that for a second. Would you have said yes? Because at the time, I genuinely believed that this was just how families worked. That this was love. That this was what you did. I had no idea that 3 months later, I'd lose my job. And I'd find out, alone, in my apartment, crying on my bathroom floor, that not a single person in that family would pick up the phone first. My company did a round of layoffs in April. I was one of 47 people let go on a Tuesday morning. It was efficient, clinical, and completely devastating. 2 weeks severance, a cardboard box, a security escort to the parking lot. I sat in my car for 45 minutes before I could drive. I told my best friend Danny first. She came over that night with wine and Thai food, and we sat on my floor and I cried and she let me. She didn't try to fix it. She just sat there. That mattered more than I can say. I waited 2 days before I told my mom. I needed to process it first. When I finally called her, she said, "Oh no, Mija. Okay. Well, are you going to be able to find something fast? Because the Cancun trip is in August and you already put the deposit down." I actually pulled the phone away from my face and stared at it. "Mom," I said, "I just lost my job." I know. I'm just saying, we already have the deposit paid. I paid the deposit. Yes, but the whole family is planning around it now. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. That was a mistake. Because saying nothing taught her that she could keep going. There's a version of me that kept saying yes after that. That took whatever survival job I could find, stretched herself thinner, kept the vacation alive, kept everyone happy. I know that version of myself well. I'd been her for 12 years. But something in me snapped that day, very quietly, like a thread you didn't know was holding you up until it was gone. I spent the next 6 weeks job hunting. I was applying everywhere, doing interviews over Zoom in my bedroom, wearing a blazer and pajama pants. I was watching my savings, what little I had, drain down every week like a bathtub with a slow leak. I started getting calls from my family that I could only describe as pressure in disguise. Tomas called to ask if I could still send his car insurance money. He didn't ask how I was. He just said, I know you're going through stuff, but I really can't let it lapse again. Renata texted me, didn't call, to ask if I was still planning to help cover the loan payment since she was a little short this month. And my mom called 3 times in 1 week to talk about the Cancun trip, upgrades she wanted to look at, room options. She asked me once if I thought we should add a day. Not one of those calls started with, how are you doing? Are you eating? Are you sleeping? Do you need anything? Not one. I started keeping a note on my phone. Every time someone called or texted me and didn't ask how I was doing, I logged it. I don't know why I started doing that. Maybe I needed proof. Maybe I needed to see it in writing so I couldn't talk myself out of what I was starting to understand. In 6 weeks, my mom called me 11 times. She asked how I was doing twice. Both times it was at the end of the call, after she'd already covered what she needed to cover. I lay in bed one night looking at that note and I felt something I'd never felt about my own family before. I felt like a resource. Not a daughter, not a sister, a resource. And then I found the group chat. Renata had accidentally added me to a family group chat I wasn't supposed to be in. I don't think she realized I was there. She'd added me instead of my cousin who has a similar name. I read 3 weeks of messages before I said anything. They were talking about me. Not cruelly, exactly. But there was a thread, a long one, where my mom was asking Renata and Tomas whether they thought I was going to be difficult about the trip, now that I'd lost my job. Tomas said, and I'm quoting directly, she always figures it out. She'll be fine. Renata said, we should probably not ask her for the loan thing this month. Give it a few weeks. Not let's help her. Not let's check on her. The calculation was about timing, about when was the right moment to ask me for things again. My mom said, she's never let us down before. I read that last line 4 times. She's never let us down before. I wasn't her daughter in that moment. I was a track record. I closed the app and I sat with it for a long time, and I made a decision that scared me more than losing my job ever did. I was going to disappear, not dramatically, not forever. I wasn't going to send an angry text or call a family meeting. I was just going to stop. Stop sending money, stop volunteering, stop being available, and I was going to see what happened. I got a new job in week 8. It paid almost the same as my old one. I didn't tell my family. I want you to sit with that for a second. I got a job and I didn't tell the people who raised me. That tells you everything about where I was emotionally. I quietly removed myself from the group chat. I told myself Renata hadn't noticed anyway. She'd probably forgotten I was there. I started an experiment, a brutal, painful, necessary experiment. I told my mom on a regular phone call that I was still struggling, that the job search wasn't going well, that I was worried about making rent. I kept my voice even. I didn't cry, I didn't over-dramatize. I just said I was really scared. Her response, and I want you to hear this clearly, her response was, okay, but Misha, we need to know about the trip. Because if you can't do it, we need to find someone else to coordinate the payments. I said, Mom, I don't think I can swing the trip. I'm really tight right now. She was quiet. Then, we already have the deposit. I know, I'm sorry. Maya, this is your father and my 60th anniversary trip. We've been planning this for months. I know, Mom, everyone is counting on this. I know. So what are we supposed to do? Not, are you going to be okay? Not, do you need help? Not even, can we do anything? What are we supposed to do? That question told me everything I had needed to know for 12 years and wasn't ready to hear. Here is what I did. I did not go to Cancun. I also did not tell them I had a job until 3 months after I'd started it. In those 3 months, I paid off 2 of my own credit cards. I started a real emergency fund for the first time in my adult life. I saw a therapist, her name was Dr. Kaur, and she was the first person who said the phrase emotional outsourcing to me and made me understand what had been happening. When Renata texted about the loan, I said, "I'm so sorry, I genuinely can't right now." And I left it there. She didn't respond. Tomas called about the car insurance. I said the same thing. He actually said, "Are you serious?" "Yeah, Tom, I'm serious. So what am I supposed to do?" "I don't know. What do you usually do when I'm not available?" Silence. "I'll figure it out," he finally said, annoyed. And he did, somehow. Shockingly, he figured it out. The Cancun trip happened without me. I saw the photos on Instagram, everyone was smiling. My mom looked beautiful. Tomas was doing something goofy in the pool. Renata had a drink with an umbrella in it. Nobody called to tell me they wished I was there. I took myself to a nice dinner that weekend instead. Sat alone at a table with a glass of wine and a pasta I didn't have to share, and I didn't cry once. Okay, I cried a little, but it was the good kind. 3 months later, I finally told my mom I had a job. She called within 20 minutes of my text. "Why didn't you tell us?" she said. "I needed some time to stabilize. Mija, we were worried." "Were you?" "Because I didn't really hear from anyone asking how I was doing." "Of course we were worried. Mom, when I told you I was scared about rent, your first question was about the Cancun deposit." Silence. "I didn't mean it like that. I know you didn't mean it like that. But that's what happened. You're being too hard on me. I'm being honest with you. Those are different things. We're your family, Maya. I know. That's kind of the whole point." Another silence. This one longer. "Are you going to stop helping us?" And there it was. The real fear. Not "are you okay?" Not "have we hurt you?" But "are you going to stop being useful to us?" "I'm going to be part of this family," I said, "but I'm not going to be the bank anymore. I have my own life to build." She didn't say anything for a while, and then, very quietly, "I didn't realize how much we relied on you." That sentence broke something open in me. Because it wasn't an apology exactly, but it was the first honest thing anyone had said to me in years. "I know you didn't," I said. I didn't realize it either, until I stopped. It's been 8 months since that phone call. My relationship with my family is different now. Quieter. A little more careful on both sides. My mom and I talk twice a week instead of every day. She asks how I'm doing first now. Genuinely, at the start of the call. I don't know if she trained herself to do it, or if something shifted in her. Maybe both. Tomas has been working the same job for 6 months. That's a personal record. I haven't said anything about it to him, but I noticed. Part of me wonders if having to handle his own stuff made him a little more capable than he believed he was. Renata and I are still figuring it out. She texted me last month to say she was sorry for not being more supportive when I lost my job. It was 2 sentences and a little awkward, but she sent it. I told her I appreciated it, and I meant it. I have a savings account now with 6 months of expenses in it. The first time I saw that number, I sat at my kitchen table and just stared at it for 10 minutes. It didn't feel real. I had never, in my adult life, had that kind of cushion under me. I'd been so busy cushioning everyone else. I saw Dr. Carr last week, and I told her all of this. She asked me if I regretted the experiment. I thought about it for a long time. And honestly, my only regret is that I didn't do it sooner. Not out of spite, not because I don't love my family, but because the version of me that kept saying yes was slowly disappearing. And nobody was going to notice until she was completely gone. I still don't know how to name exactly what my family was doing. I don't think it was malicious. I think they just got used to me. And I think I let them, because being needed felt close enough to being loved. But they're not the same thing. I know that now. If you're listening to this and you see yourself in any part of this story, the one who always answers, the one who always figures it out, the one whose phone lights up when there's a problem, I just want to ask you something. When's the last time someone called you just to ask how you were doing? Not because they needed something. Just you. Think about it. And I'm genuinely curious. If you were in my position, would you have done the experiment? Would you have stayed quiet and watched? Or would you have confronted them head on? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one.